Welcome to Gardening Utah. I'm your host, Jana Francis. I'm so excited about today's episode because we're talking about my very favorite topic, which is vegetables and seed starting. So we are going to get into what you can and can't do right now because by far that is the number one question that we are getting on the Utah Gardeners Facebook group, as well as that I'm getting on Instagram and through email, is just, hey Jana, is it too late to plant seeds? Is it too late to start tomatoes? Is it too late to buy tomatoes? Is it too early to get tomatoes in the ground? What can I do? What can't I do? What can I still grow? So I am going to settle all the debates, and we are going to get into it and give you the whole scoop on what you still can and can't do. So we're going to dispel the myths, and we are going to get right down to the nitty-gritty, of course, depending on where you live. So keep in mind that when I'm giving this advice, I am giving the advice for the metropolitan area of northern Utah. If you live in St. George, you're just going to have to sort of listen to the advice and take it accordingly. I'm really mostly going to be focusing on when the last frost date is, okay? So again, northern Utah as the focus, but just edit my advice based on what part of Utah you're in, because we do have such a diverse climate here in Utah, and there's so many different zones and a lot of different, last frost dates, but we're going to really go off of mid-May, Mother's Day, as being the time where we experience our last frost date. If you're down in St. George, we're pretty much good to go. So keep in mind, I'm basing the advice on that, and this will be pretty applicable no matter what. So we're going to get into it, but first, a quick message from our sponsor, Park City Microgreens. They are your go-to source for ultra-fresh, nutrient-packed microgreens grown right here in the Wasatch Back. So if you live in the Park City area, did you know that you can get home delivery weekly of microgreens? Whether you're trying to top off your salads, whether you're going to sprinkle amazing, delicious nutritiousness on your avocado toast in the morning like I do, these microgreens pack a very big punch. So grown right in Park City, delivered locally in Park City and surrounding areas, by the way, and grown without pesticides, you can eat clean and feel fresh. Just visit pcmicrogreens.com and check them out today. All right, by the way, absolute shout out to how much I'm loving microgreens lately. I have personally received microgreens from Park City Microgreens, and let me just tell you, they are so good, and I am a massive fan of Rambo radish. I think that's my latest, most favorite microgreen, although the salad mix, a lot of people really, really love the salad mix too. And then the broccoli, oh my gosh, so many different amazing varieties of microgreens. All right, let's get into it. What can we plant now, and what do we need to still wait on? Now, I think one of the reasons we're getting this question so much more than I think we do in other years is because it's been such a beautiful couple weeks. Absolutely beautiful. And unfortunately, in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, haven't received much, if any, precipitation, and it has just been screaming spring. And in fact, today as I sit here, it is Friday, April 11th, when I'm recording this episode. I believe this episode will drop this weekend, but it is 84 degrees. And that is the premier temperature that so much of our vegetable gardens need to survive and thrive. And so nature's tricking a lot of us, right? It's making us think that we're in the clear. Oh my gosh, everything's just early this year. We're good to go. But we're not good to go. Today is a very evil trick from Mother Nature. It's just giving us a taste, right? It's giving us a taste of what it's going to feel like mid-May when it's totally okay, at least in northern Utah, and most parts of northern Utah, to get our warm season vegetables planted outside. So just keep in mind, we're getting tricked right now. And maybe when you're listening to this episode, we'll be back into the evening freezes, because as I look here over the next several days, we absolutely are going to have an overnight frost freeze next Monday. So we're going to be getting back down into the cooler, just normal season temps. So that being said, let's start off with the seeds that you never want to plant indoors anyway, and that you are always going to want to direct sow, meaning when the coast is clear for that type of vegetable or fruit, that it's okay to just direct sow and put it straight in the ground. So let's just start with root vegetables. So your carrots, beets, radishes, turnips, parsnips, they do best when their roots are undisturbed. They do not transplant well. So you're going to want to direct sow these into the ground, and it's the perfect time to do it. Keep in mind though, you may want to succession sow. So planting these in succession for a continuous harvest. This way you're not ending up with a refrigerator filled with carrots and beets all at once, unless of course you're into preserving and you're planning to do that on purpose, but it can get really exciting this time of year and we can tend to overplant, but really start to think, what is my family going to eat? What am I growing this for? Am I going to be preserving, freezing? Will I have time? Look on the seed packet to see how many days that particular vegetable is going to take until harvest. Radishes are usually 28 days, but everything else is quite a bit longer. And determine, am I going to be able to do what it is I choose with these vegetables at that time? And if not, typically with radishes, as an example, I just need enough for tacos and salads and just fresh eating and like chips and dip and everything like that. Or not chips and dip, veggies and dip, I should say. And so I don't want to plant too many, right? So I tend to just go out every week or two and add a few more to the patch, right? But with carrots, though, keep in mind, you can succession sow through like July. What I love to do with carrots is make sure that I'm planting new seeds later in the season. Then they grow all year and I leave them in the ground. I do. Every Thanksgiving, I dig up fresh carrots. Every single Thanksgiving for our Thanksgiving meal, and I dig it up right out of the ground. Now, a few asterisks there is that sometimes it's really frozen, but not always by Thanksgiving, right? And this advice, keep in mind, I'm growing in raised garden boxes in most cases, with the exception of typically squash and cucurbits. I put directly in the ground, but in raised beds, that is where I do most of my root vegetables because I find the soil to be looser and then I tend to get a product that I'm happier with. So I love to succession sow carrots so that I can not only harvest midsummer through the rest of the season, but then have carrots in ground all winter long because the garden box kind of works as like nature's refrigerator, right? So love to do that. And I also love to can beets and then have beets for the rest of the year. So I don't mind doing a whole bunch of beets at once. Then I've got my bumper crop and then I'm able to, pickle my beets and get those canned up. But as far as radishes go, I really do like to spread those out just to have enough to have on hand to eat. I've never personally found a way that I love to preserve radishes. If anybody knows of any way, let me know. And I don't tend to have enough room in my garden for turnips and parsnips, but I have a lot of friends that love making soups with those and lots of other things. So obviously amazing root vegetables as well. So you can start your root vegetables now and go ahead and just get those outside. Same thing with peas. So it's perfectly fine to get peas out now if you haven't already. I actually did a test this year. I did a little experiment where I started my first round of peas in my raised garden box on President's Day, which was, I think this year, February 21st or 23rd. And they are about 3 inches tall now. Still very small plants, but considering they've been in the ground now for quite some time, I would have expected them to be bigger. But here was my experiment. I've heard many different experts say, some say, oh, you should get your peas in on President's Day, and some say, wait until St. Patrick's Day. So this year I was like, I'm just going to test an experiment and do both. And I will tell you this, the peas that I started on St. Patrick's Day are almost as big as the ones I started on President's Day. Obvious reasons, right? Because the much colder weather, it takes longer to germinate the colder it is, and it also takes longer to grow the colder it is. So we will see, though, when I am able to get the first harvest. And again, my experiment is only good for the year 2025, right? I could do this exact same experiment next year and get completely different results. But in general, I just wanted to kind of do a little test this year. I had the time and got the peas in the ground. So I really over-indexed on peas this year. I've got quite a bit in one of my vegetable boxes, and I just figure I'm going to go ahead and harvest those. I have been succession planting them as well, so a little bit every week. Just for the first 3 weeks. I haven't planted any in about a month. But, well, yeah, since St. Patrick's Day was the last time I put some in ground. So I'm hoping to get enough to like freeze up and just have some fresh peas for a hot minute. I should probably do another quick round though, now that I'm thinking through it. Anyway, peas, totally fine to get in the ground, but you really want to do that now because peas do not like heat. So as soon as it starts to heat up, we're going to have a rough time with peas. So other things you can direct sow in the ground right now. Any cold season vegetable like leafy greens. So lettuces, spinach, arugula. Arugula is another really fast. Arugula is to lettuces as or I should say leafy greens, not lettuces, as radishes are to root vegetables. They are quick and fast. It is very, I believe arugula is even like 22 to 28 days, something around that. So that's a really fast leaf to get up. I personally am not a fan, but most people are. And I actually do love almost every vegetable in the world. And I can't get myself to love arugula. But arugula salad's a thing, and a lot of people love it. I wish I did, but I don't. Either way, get it in the ground because you can harvest it very, very quickly. So mustard greens, kale, broccoli, cabbages, all of your cool season vegetables, you can get those in the ground now, either by seed or if you go to a fabulous nursery near you, such as if you're in the Murray, Holiday, Taylorsville, Salt Lake City area, you've got 42nd Street Greenhouse that's open now, I believe. Actually, I believe she opens tomorrow, or maybe it was today. And Lambert's on Redwood Road, they opened last week. So 2 amazing places where you can pick up a lot of cold season vegetables. If you didn't start those indoors earlier, or if you don't want to direct sow and wait. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. I didn't actually start any, let's see, what didn't I start? I didn't start onions because I didn't have onion seeds. And I thought, God, I really wanted to, but I thought, no, I'm just going to get them from Lambert's or 42nd Street. So I kind of skipped it on that, but I will have, once I transplant those, the onions will do just great. Oh, speaking of onions, you can also get your green onions. Any spring onion seed is going to be perfectly fine to get in the ground because those are also fairly quick as well. But if you're looking at, your broccolis, cauliflowers, and your cabbages, you can direct sow them now. But you could have a couple weeks ago as well and could have started them indoors to get a jump start. So I would say for those, transplants are going to be easier and they'll give you a bit of a head start on this season. So what not to do as far as what seeds should we not be putting outdoors or even starting at all right now, I would go with peppers. So it's just bottom line, too late to start pepper seeds. It really is. Unless you're looking at a really quick starter like a jalapeno or really like a small picnic bell, you really want to get a jump start on that season, and you're going to need to pick up some transplants from any nursery. Peppers are not hard to find once the season is going, but you're going to want to wait in most areas another 6 weeks for putting peppers in the ground. Just because they're for sale right now in many places doesn't mean that it's okay for them to be outside. Peppers, by the way, my favorite thing to grow in the entire world, other than maybe tomatoes. I love everything, sorry. I get all excited. But I'm a pepperhead, as many of you longtime listeners know, and they just don't like anything below 50 degrees at night. So let's not make them suffer, okay? I tend to wait until late May. But you can, if you do buy peppers from somewhere, a trusted source, a friend, you do want to keep them inside under lights or whatever works for you until you can get them outside. And when I say whatever works for you, what I mean by that is some people like to baby their peppers and take them, I'm not talking about myself, or maybe I am, but take them inside and outside every single day, inside trays. So this way they're not under the artificial lights, but they're getting strength from just being outside, being in the wind. And I'm just laughing at myself here. But this is true. And I know I'm not the only one. I could list over 5 really good gardeners in Utah that I know of very well do this as well. So it's not just me. But taking them in and out just so that they don't have to hit that 50 degree or risk getting, God forbid, depending on where you live, any quick, unpredicted snap of cold. That happens here where I live quite a bit because I am low near the Jordan River. And I can it can say that it's going to be 50 degrees and go down to 36 and I won't know the difference. And anyway, so that's with peppers. With peppers, if you've bought pepper seeds, wait till next year. That's my advice. Now, again, my advice is coming from everything I've mentioned, but in addition to getting the maximum harvest, right? It doesn't mean that you wouldn't get any harvest from your plant, but I'm talking about maximum harvest, because why go to the effort unless you're going to be able to leverage, is that plant for the entire life cycle that you can get out of it. So anyway, so keep that other little disclaimer in mind as I'm giving you my diatribe on things that you shouldn't be doing right now. And then tomatoes. Now, tomatoes are a hot topic because they are such a beloved vegetable or fruit. I guess that's another debate that we should have here on Gardening Utah one of these days. But tomatoes, like peppers, require lots of time. They require warm soil, and they need a long season and a head start as well. So although it is not too late, in my opinion, to start tomatoes, it is like borderline. Cherries and other things. I mean, to be honest, I started my tomatoes on April 1st. So here I am on April 11th, just 10 days in. But 10 days can make a big difference in your season, right? So again, some cherries you're going to be fine. But really at this point, if you haven't started your tomatoes, either do it like as we're talking or go ahead and just pick those up as well. Pick up transplants from a store or a nursery that you trust, or a great sale. We've got some amazing sales coming up. Wasatch Community Gardens big sale is going to be Saturday, May 10th. I know that the Urban Pepper Project, I believe their sale, I'm trying to remember the name of their sale. I'm looking it up as we speak, but I know that is May 17th. That's in the Mill Creek area. Okay, that is actually called the Urban Farmer Plant Sale, one day only at Crest Farm. You can look that up and details on that on Instagram at the Urban Pepper Project. And then I know that Frog Bench Farms has a sale that's the earliest one. Probably still a little early to plant a lot of those things, so you'll have to baby them for a hot minute. Frog Bench Farms, looking them up now too. They're doing a pre-order. Nice to know. Okay, Frog Bench Farms sale is Saturday, May 3rd at Liberty Heights Fresh. So you can look those guys up on Instagram. 3 incredible sales where you can get a lot of really unique varieties of all these vegetables as well. So if I'm disappointing you in any way by telling you it's too late for some of these things, it's not too late to buy them from someone else who have been babying these beautiful vegetables for quite some time. So again, tomatoes, go for it ASAP if you've got seeds and you want to get them going. But you can also do very, very well with getting transplants. Now, we are seeing these transplants all over the place. I'm seeing them at Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, all the places. But just because you can doesn't mean you should, okay? So, not saying not to buy them, but just like I mentioned with peppers, you're going to need to baby them for a hot minute. So, tomatoes should not go in the ground until the last frost in your area is expected to be over, Unless, of course, you have something different going on, like a wall of water or a greenhouse or some other situation. And if you do, you probably are way too advanced to be listening to this episode. Let's be honest here. Okay, so we've covered tomatoes, peppers, root vegetables, all of your greens. Let's talk about cucurbits, squash, melons, cucumbers, zucchinis, pumpkins, anything in the gourd family. Just like tomatoes and peppers, all of these need to be planted after, I say Mother's Day, but your last frost date. And also my opinion is not to start those indoors. I just would not. I have personally found better success with healthier plants by direct sowing all of these vegetables into the ground. And also, I have tested it out in the past where I've started a seed or two for the same sort of variety plant indoors a couple weeks before transplanting. And then at the same time, when I transplant the plant, I start another seed. And the one that I planted by seed ends up catching up. Because the reality with this type of plant, they need a root system that's does not like to be disturbed. And so I feel like when we're buying them in pots or growing them in pots, and when I say pots, I'm talking about the tiny little transplanted ones, right? The ones we buy in the stores. They become root bound so fast because they grow so fast. And then they're root bound. We put them in the ground. They don't like to be transplanted in the first place. And then the roots kind of go in circles a little bit. And the plant takes a hot minute to kind of, get its wits about it, if you will. I'm sure there's a much more educated and scientific way of describing what I'm describing, but you're just getting it from me. And I am a fan of putting these vegetables directly in ground. Now, if you find young seedlings from the store, right? And you're very, very careful, go for it. And I have done that before. If I find a variety of pumpkin or cucumber that I really want to try, I will give it a go, but just with reasonable expectations, right? But again, many nurseries and garden centers do sell all of these vegetables in pots, and I just find better success starting them myself by direct sowing. But you do you. And I will tell you this, I will also be guilty. I will go to some of these sales and I will find varieties that I've never heard of. And I get FOMO when I see that, because if I haven't tried something, I'm desperate to try it. So if I haven't already started the seed or I don't have the seed, then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to risk it, right? But I go in with reasonable expectations. So there you have it. That's my opinion, and I think that a lot of other Utah garden experts would say the exact same thing. But just make sure that for those vegetables, that when we're putting them in the ground, that we're after our frost date and we've got the soil temps where they need to be. And there is no exact prediction of when that's going to be, because we just have to watch the weather for our particular areas. And I think the only two major vegetables that I haven't spoken about is corn and beans, but really, the lesson with them is the same. It's still too early to put outside without protection. So those really fall into the same time frame as your cucurbits, your peppers, and your tomatoes. Peppers really, I would say, are the ones you would put in last because, again, the soil temps really need to be higher, as well as the overnight temps need to be higher as well. So I hope that you've been inspired by this episode. In many ways, it's making it easier, right? Nature knows best here. And really, the reason we're starting seeds indoors is to kind of, get a longer season on a lot of these vegetables that typically don't grow in areas with a shorter growing season like we tend to have in northern Utah. Okay, I'm just rooting here through the inbox just to make sure that my Instagram DMs are answered. Oh, listen to that, root through the inbox. No pun intended, guys. Ooh, I wonder if that should be a segment, root through the inbox. Oh my gosh. I think I just named a segment. Okay, I'm going to find a sponsor for that segment. And we're going to do root through the inbox. Ooh, I like that. Anyway, sorry, thinking out loud here, but geez, I think that's a good idea. All right, so Jana, is it too late to plant tomatoes? No, it is too early to plant tomatoes unless you're using protection like a wall of water. This one, is it too late to plant peas? No, but do it really soon. Like now. So in the episode notes, I'm going to add the USU Extension Planting Guide for Vegetables, which will give you very specific dates and times for all these vegetables that we just went over for your particular area. And as always, everything USU is absolute perfection and really the go-to guide for all things gardening in the state of Utah. And so now that I've answered all of my Instagram DMs on the @GardeningUtah account, you're going to need to go there and ask me more for next week's segment of Let's Root Through the Inbox. I'm kind of excited about that. Well, I hope that I've inspired you, saved you some time as well, maybe saved you some money, maybe prevented some mistakes, made you have a little bit more confidence as you go about your gardening season this year. And as you guys know, one of my absolute favorite things to do in the world is to cook food fresh from things that I've grown in my own garden. I feel like it gives us so much power. I truly feel so much power when I go outside, pick a bunch of things, and go inside and make an omelet, right? Grabbing eggs from the coop and a zucchini, some green onion, some tomato, some pepper, and making like the best omelet ever. Come on. That is what I call power. So I hope I've inspired you. And let's grow some good stuff this year, guys. Let's have great gardens and grow a lot of amazing, healthy, and delicious food this year, Utah. All right. Well, as I always say at the end of every episode, we'll see you next week here on Gardening Utah. And in the meantime, grow big or go home.